Alright. Let me mute display capture. And go ahead and talk about the rustic part of programming for a second, because it's time we got some shit together and brutal, blunt presented to the table here. I have researched that the programming language of Rust is becoming one of the worst enemies of programming, actually the whole programming regime, in all of existence. The reason being is because its community is literally absolutely atrocious. C++ does not have this. C does not have this. C# does not have this. JavaScript doesn't have this. Only Rust. Their community is intolerable of other languages. They don't even like looking at other languages such as JavaScript. And other languages I discussed, Lua, D, F, and some other ones. Why would they do that? Like, why would Rust specifically, and this is where I have to literally, go to immense strengths to prove people wrong about that Rust is inherently safe. It's not battle tested, guys. It never was battle tested, and it's still being developed because it's not complete. Just like C++ is being developed, it's not complete. C is still being developed. It's not complete. Battle testing something is extremely hard to do in this world. And Rust is going to fail at it. I don't care what people say about it. Rust will fail in the security sector because, and even if the Rust community wants to comment on my video like this, they can go ahead and do it, but I'll delete those comments because their reasoning is not valid with modern, honesty and moral compass. In fact, Rust's syntax is completely different. It's not even near as close to C++. I'll show you, actually. It doesn't look nothing like C++. Let's just take a look at this. I'm going to put an example, Rust syntax extension. We'll put on the display capture again, and we'll show you. This does not look anything like C++. The only thing that makes it look like it are the dot operators, the comments, but the let, I don't think that was even introduced in C. Loop wasn't either. Pub async and fn do not exist in C and C++ either. This is not... This makes absolutely no sense. The only reason struct exists, and enum even exists, union exists, but this is a copy of C right here in C++. But unfortunately, this language is still different from its C++ derivative. And the reason being is because the machine is doing it for you, not yourself. The problem with Rust is that too many people want to dominate it in the Linux kernel by having automatic memory management and safety. That doesn't always work. The human has to be able to make sure everything is safe, not the machine. The machine isn't going to tell you if something is safe or not. It can only tell you by exceptions, such as error codes and statements that say, 0x000000 whatever, or the program has returned exit status 0, which means it was successful. Or the program has returned exit status 1, which means something went wrong with it. Fail. or -1 or something, when something failed. So, this has nothing to do with Rust being a good language whatsoever. Rust is horrible. It was thought of by some idiotic person who was all hyped up to solve the ridiculous problem of memory management and, memory safety. Dozens of programming languages already offer this option. Rust is just an additional, what do they call that word? One more into the fold, I guess? Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So for you rusty assholes who still want to complain in my comment section, you can go right ahead. I don't give a crap. Fight all you want. In fact, I might actually welcome the fighting in my comment section, saying that your programming language is not tolerated on my turf. The only reason, and this is just my perspective on it, C++ is simple enough for me to understand. Even though, yes, it's a humongous language, and C is the same way. They're both very big, and Rust is going to become bigger than that. But the community aspect of Rust is horrible. The C++ community and C community are just as good. They're a lot better than Rust. The Rust community is a political mess, and they like to, do all sorts of really nasty shit to people, criticizing them of their own knowledge, being trolls, being assholes, everything else. They even want to replace the Linux kernel with Rust. That doesn't work like that. Once you start making a kernel, an entire operating system kernel, and you modify it with another language, that is not going to work. You have to translate it to C or C++. I mean, if you made the kernel in C or C++, and you add different parts of another language, guess what? That stuff's got to be translated into the target language, aka C or C++, or some other silly language. Rust is not going to solve the problem here. It will never will do that. It will never do that. It never will. The only reason I believe memory safety should be controlled by the human is because humans are responsible for what goes on the computer as well. And humans are responsible for writing their own code. And they're also responsible for their own memory safety, their own memory allocations. And if Rust is going to get rid of that community can go right to hell. See, the Rust community can go right to hell because they don't know what the fuck they just did to the entire scope of all of the programming languages. It is not the future. It will never be the future. And if it was, that means everybody would be forced to use this language and this language only. By the way, Rust has no legitimacy over, writing and reading images, and does not have any way to make a desktop application yet. Or, like how to make a window or, draw rectangles yet. I don't even know if they even have that option. I'm going to search it up right now. They don't have Rust PNG or Rust JPEG to read images. Well, I guess they do, but really, man, you shouldn't really have a machine automatically manage memory safety for you. It does not work like that. Because the human is still responsible for writing the source code, which in turn makes the machine manage it for you. The humans are always the one that writes it, not the machine. Oh, but artificial intelligence does the same thing. Why can't that be a defense mechanism? No. AI can actually inject malware, even if you write a perfectly good source code example and tried replicating it, there's all sorts of engines you can use, like vibe coding bullshit nonsense. Vibe coding is a nonsense, thing. I like to manually type out my own variables once in a while in Visual Studio just to see what the hell happens. Even though, yes, you don't know how to write arrays. I know I don't. I could care less about arrays right now. That's not the topic of this video. topic of this video is that Rust is a piece of shit community, and programming language at that. So, y'all need to stop fucking around the Rust community, stop criticizing others, of their own other very experienced knowledge, and just start realizing that what you're doing is actually more harm than good. And Linus actually had enough, Linus Torvalds had enough of hearing the drama between Rust being put inside the kernel, even though he did specifically say that he wanted to welcome it. That was a lucky decision he managed to do. But here's the thing for you Rust developers. Linus Torvalds still gets to decide what goes in the kernel or not. And I understand he's in his probably late 50s or 60s. He's got a short term of life left. But I'm warning you, if you manage to outsmart him by putting Rust in the Linux kernel, you will be very sorry, and you will be removed from every mailing list that will be offered to you for Linux. They can do that. They can literally do that. They can remove you from said mailing lists. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this Rust rant, because I'm absolutely sick and tired of hearing about these Rust articles, people trying to rant and ruin every single other programming language by dominating Rust into it. Rusty assholes. Anyways, this is Alex Lembine out.